is the courage to love. The courage to love. Love takes courage. True love takes a lot of courage. As we were sharing last week, that, I get these spirit downloads, these spirit letters, and the letter called Courage, that's in Your Deepest Intent, which is the second volume of the Letters from the Infinite series, these downloads. It said, courage is continuing to walk in the direction of your surrender. And I want to go back to that and apply it to love. Continuing to walk in the direction of your surrender. Now, it's an interesting thing about courage is that sometimes we're very conscious of it. We're actually trying to muster it up. And then there are other times that we're acting so genuinely, so spontaneously, we don't even have a chance to think about what we're doing per se. And people are telling us we were courageous. Kind of like the running into the burning fire to save a child. Somebody says, oh, you get these awards, you're all that courageous. And the person's like, what do you, that didn't feel like courage. That was, I didn't even think about it. Boom. Kids in there, it's burning. Boom. Okay. I contend they're both this idea of continuing to walk in the direction of your surrender. If it's that burning fire, you're surrendering your ego. Okay? You're surrendering even your own sense of self-protection. You are so committed to something that is so big and great and grand and glorious that it transcends even the most basic primal instincts for you to run and do something else. Are you with me? That's a real belief in life. If you're running into that burning building, it isn't that you don't believe in life, even if it appears like you're sacrificing your own. You believe so much in life that your own sacrifice is for the sake of life. Did you feel that? That you're so committed to something that seeing it fulfilled, you're so committed to it that you are willing to do anything towards it. That takes a certain amount of courage. And I would contend that takes a certain amount of love. Love is not just an emotion. Love is a power. I want you to feel that. It's an energy field. It's a vibration. It is a force. It's not something that can be contained. It's not something that can be packaged. And it is so beyond whatever our emotions are. And what that force of love does in the universe is it unifies. Love is that connective tissue, so to speak, that brings everything back to unification. You hear me often say that the only thing that ever needs to be healed is what? The sense of separation. The sense, it's not real, it's just a sense. Everything is in a wholeness. But when you look at any problems that we have, large or small, they're all rooted in a sense of separation. Separate from our good, separate from our wealth, separate from our health, separate from each other, separate from our own selves. And when we look at so many of the problems that we see around in the world, they were efforts to try to override the sense of separation. Are you with me? So we installed this kind of institution or this kind of practice thinking that it is going to override my sense of insecurity or not enoughness, whatever that is. We're going to enslave you. We're going to make you an indentured service. We're going to take your land. We're going to do, because we don't have enough. Sense of separation. There's not enough here. It reminds me of that poster, what is our oil doing under your soil? What's our oil doing under your soil? Okay. That not enoughness, that sense of separation. And I'm being very specific about it here because the United States is only 5% of the world's population and we consume 35% of its resources. Okay. So for us to not be actively involved in something like climate change, that we have played a huge part in creating, isn't exactly an act of love. Not exactly an act of love. I give things sometimes examples in political context, but my comments aren't about politics. It's about our collective experience. Continuing to walk in the direction of our surrender. It takes courage to love. It takes courage to keep showing up. Because it means that you have to keep believing in something bigger and greater than your ego gratification. It means you have to keep believing in something that's transcendent, something that keeps pulling you up. See, healing that sense of separation, that's not easy. It's not easy to keep loving when you're tired and exhausted. It's not easy to keep loving when you feel betrayed. It's not easy to keep loving or even to start loving when there are these people that seem all this different from you and you don't quite understand them and you don't know where they're coming from and you can't see where the commonality is. Because so for many of us, we need the sense of similarity to give us a sense of safety to make it, quote unquote, safe enough for me to love. But who are all these immigrants? Who are all these people coming into the neighborhood? Who are all these new people at my school? Who are these new people at my job? Who are these folks marrying into my family? What is this? What is this? Can I trust love? Should I love? Jesus was always being tested. He's always being tested, particularly by the religious elite and by the lawyers, the scribes, the ones who were the keepers of the law. So they're testing him at one point and asking him, what's the greatest commandment? And most of them are thinking that he's going to go back to the 10 Commandments or something like that, but he says something very different. He says these are the two greatest commandments. One, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. And second, to love your neighbor as yourself. To love your neighbor as yourself. We sometimes confuse that second commandment with the quote-unquote golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's action. That's action. Love your neighbor as yourself is a state of being. It's relational. It's not transactional. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you is transactional. I'm not saying that it's wrong or bad. You should do both. Okay? But don't confuse them. Because you could accomplish the golden rule with no love in your heart. You could very calculatedly just do unto everybody else what you would want done unto you as your kind of karmic security measure to make sure what comes back to me is what I want. Do you feel that? But it doesn't necessarily have to have any love in the heart. It doesn't have to necessarily make me any closer to you. I can be begrudging. I can be, but I'm going to still extend this invitation to you, even though I think you're a wretched person of the earth, because I wouldn't want to be left out of the family dinner or not get the invitation to my sister's wedding. Do you feel that? And I go and I extend the invitation and you come and I'm still looking down my nose at you and I'm still pissed off at you or whatever. I gave you the invitation just like I would want the invitation, but not a doggone thing has changed. Nothing has healed. Nothing has transformed. Now, if you want to get moving towards loving someone as though they were you, the golden rule is a good place to start. Okay? It will move you in that direction because at least you will have the decency to not treat them less than anything that you would want to be treated. So they at least are moving up to status of human being. Because when we're angry with people, they stop being human beings. You're whatever. You're the liar. You're the cheater. You're the obstructionist. You're the abuser. You're not like a real person to me. You're a politician. You're the homeless. You're this. You're an illegal alien. Oh, isn't that great? It's like, no. It elevates people up to the level of people. And I'm at least seeing you. But obeying the commandments is not enough. There's a letter of the law and there's a spirit of the law. There's a letter of the law and there's a spirit of the law. So in the spirit of this law, to love your neighbor as though they are you is a oneness. Can you hear that? It's a oneness love. It's a connective love. It's the healing, the sense of separation love. If I don't elevate to that, just do unto others as I would have them do unto me, could actually enhance the separation. If I keep thinking there's a you and there's a me, there's a you and there's a me, and I'm constantly thinking of this transaction between you and me. Doing unto others is one thing. Loving them is another. Loving them is another. Loving them as though they are you. So this is Mother's Day. So think about your own family, for example. Think about those moments when you've done this journey that I'm talking about. There's been some kind of rift. There's been some kind of divide. And as a peace offering, you at least started doing the golden rule. Okay? You at least started treating people somewhat the way that you wanted to be treated. But if you wanted your family to heal, you wanted your marriage to heal, you wanted your relationship with your parents, your children, your siblings to heal, you had to step that up a little bit. Okay? Just the niceties. And you know what that's like when you're just being nice. And it's colder than cold in that room. And everybody's being really nice. Would you like another cup of coffee, dear? And the tape is going on. I want to throw this coffee on you. But it takes courage. It takes courage to take down the armor. It takes courage to trust. It takes courage to move towards unification. It takes courage not to separate. See, love heals the sense of separation. So when people start doing stuff that makes you want to separate, you start loving a little harder. And I know every mother in the house knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like I'm sure everybody in the room can relate to exactly what I am talking about. It's love that keeps you in the game. It's love that keeps you from the distancing and the separating. I don't care whether we're talking about your house or the White House. It's all the same thing. But it takes courage. It takes courage to keep loving. We keep moving in that direction of that surrender. See, when you're mustering up the courage, it doesn't necessarily feel good. In that moment, your knees may be knocking, your heart could be palpitating, you know, there could be some fear or something, and yet there's a little, I don't know, still small voice, something that keeps whispering, do it anyway. Do it anyway. No, I don't want to do that. I might get hurt again. Do it anyway. Oh, they may not like me. They may not accept me. They may reject me. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. And that argument that you're having, it's with you. No, 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 no. Yes, yes. No, no, yes, yes. No, no, yes, yes. That's in you. That's in you. But I don't care how much safer you think that you are by not loving, I guarantee you it's never created more joy. It's never created a greater sense of fulfillment. It's never made you feel more whole. The gate that you put up to keep other people out keeps you in. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles. And I mentioned earlier, I'm about to fly there in a couple of hours. You're not on my family home, but it's so common in Los Angeles, much more so than in Santa Cruz, to see bars on the windows of residents. Now, the bars are there to keep burglars from coming in. So let's just say, I don't know, maybe once a year, I'll up it twice a year. Perhaps a burglar might be trying to get into your house. But every single day, you are behind these bars. Every time you look out the window, you're behind these bars. So why are we so protective of ourselves? Because we fear we're not resilient. We fear that if I'm hurt, I'm not going to make it. If this thing or that thing happens, it's going to be the end of me. But what we learn through loving is that if we keep loving, we heal. If we keep loving, we get over it. So someone, just like with the burglar situation, may put wrought iron casings, invisible casings around your heart to keep out that one burglar that may come in a year, or two burglars a year. One or two people that might come into your sphere that you feel might try to hurt you or take something from you. So to make sure that those one or two people can't get into you, you are going to live behind this fencing, this guard that you're behind every day. Are you with me? What's the trade-off? What's the trade-off? What's the sense of separation? Because that courage to love is also the courage to know that I'm resilient. The courage to love is to know that no matter what it is that happens, if I stay in this thing called love, if that's where I'm standing and that's where I'm living, there's always a round two. I may be knocked down, but I'm not knocked out. And this fear that we have of not making it, this fear that we have of somehow being permanently damaged, or something could be so great or harmful as to be an impediment to me getting my good for the rest of my life, because of that, we stop loving. Because of that, we stay in fear. But I'm here to tell you that the promise of love is not that you won't go through stuff. The promise of love is that you'll still stand. The promise of love is that you will get up. There's not a spiritual tradition in the world that promises you that you're not going to go through anything. Not a one. In fact, they say the opposite. At the end of what we know of as the quote-unquote Sermon on the Mount, the end is a parable. Sometimes it's referred to as the parable of the two foundations. And it's a simple parable, where Jesus is telling people after all these teachings, he who hears my word and does them is likened to the wise man that builds his house upon the rock. And when the winds and the rains come, the house still stands. But he who hears these words and doesn't do anything with them is likened to the foolish man that built his house on the sand. And when the winds and the rains come, great is the fall of the house. This is not a construction lesson. I hope you get that. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. You hear me say the only thing that needs to be healed is a sense of separation. What is sand? Separated rock. Sand is separated rock. When you build your house upon the rock, something that's solid, something that's stable, when the winds and the rains come, your house still stands. When you build your life on the sand, the temporal, the transitory, the changeless, in the realm of people, places, and things, when you build your house on that, when the winds and rains come, your stuff falls down. Have any of you ever had that experience? of building your house, building your life on shifting sand. Building your life on relationships. Building your life on your money. Building your life on your career. Building your life on your own body and physical might and strength. Because even that's temporal. Even that's going to shift and change. What happens to us? What happens when the wind and rain comes? It's not if it comes, it's when it comes. It comes to the wise ones who are building on the rock, and it comes to the ones who are being foolish and not building on the rock. The winds and the rains are going to come. Nobody can stop illness. Nobody can stop accidents. Nobody can stop stuff from happening. Life happens. It's not happening at you. It's not happening to you. Life's in session. Life just happens. But if you build on something transcendent, are you with me? You build on something that's everlasting. You build on something that's not coming or going and leaving. And I can tell, just like what Jesus said, and the Buddha has said, that everybody has said this, build upon the rock. Build upon something that is solid, and the most solid thing in the universe is love. The most solid thing is love. That unifying factor that connects everything. We read a passage from Howard Thurman, one of my favorite authors. And in his little essay, Nobody Ever Wins a Fight, he explains, he says at the end, perhaps the truest test of a man's character is the weapon that he chooses in a fight. Listen to that. Perhaps the truest measure of a man's character is the weapon that he chooses in a fight. He said, and of all the weapons that are the most deadly, it's love. And how few will put their life in its hands. Why is love so deadly? Why is love such a powerful weapon? It's because love will end it all. Love will end the story. Love will end the divide. Love will end the split. Love will end your self-righteousness. Love will end the estrangement. When love gets through, there won't even be a fight. So whatever you have about winning, you're not going to put that in love's hand. Because when love comes around, there will be winning, but it won't be just you. When love comes around, something else will happen. It takes courage to love. Now, I know love is not a hallmark moment for everybody. It's not. Stuff happens, yes? Stuff happens. We speak of the love that comes from like parent to child, and the opposite is also true. That there's love, and I don't care how old you are, there's love that we need to do back in reverse towards our mothers, towards our mothers' mothers, towards our ancestors. Are you with me? And regardless of what you may think about anybody, a deep divide, a house divided against itself can't stand. So I'm encouraging everybody, heal the wounds. Heal the wounds. It's not a question of, does somebody deserve it? It's how fragmented do you want to be? Because the love that you withhold from people is the love you don't give yourself. It's like that casing. However you keep other people out is how you keep yourself in. There's a beautiful world out there that's full of joy and peace and creativity, but you won't know it if you're not willing to connect with it. You won't know it if you're not willing to love. Love. Trust. Love. Grow in love. Love is inclusive. Love is embracing. Love lifts you up. Love ends the divides. Love inspires you. Love keeps you going. Love puts a little pep in your step even when you're scared. And I contend, like that song says, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. Because we're not expressing enough of it. Are you with me? We need the love. Have the courage. Have the courage to love. And I particularly want to invite you this day. Make that extra effort. Let somebody know that you love them. Say thank you. Say thank you, even if they're not on this earth plane. Light a candle. Call them into existence. We didn't get here on our own. If you're here, people nurtured you. It may not have been pretty, but you're here. Are you with me? We're here. Say thank you, pass it forward. Say thank you and pass it forward. And I guarantee you that your heart will start to sing. Yes? Let's pray.